What's your most unethical life hack? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. My old man was a copier machine technician for big office buildings and lawyers' offices. Years back, they started trying to track the technician's location and hours by having them scan the barcodes on the copier machine at each location with this handheld device. He used each one of those copy machines to make a book with every barcode in it so he could get his work done fast, but scan the book later and keep his hours LOL. Story 2. Once talked with a homeless man that mentioned he would often empty and clean out a dog food can and refill it with beef stew. He ate it outside of the grocery store while he was asking for money or food and would get hooked up. Story 3. Hotels often have fees if you cancel too close to your intended stay. In a lot of cases, you can, however, call them, reschedule into the future, then wait a bit and call again to cancel, but this time without the fees. Answer. Yeah, I work at a hotel and this doesn't work, lol. We just reschedule, and then if they try to cancel that one, we charge the card right then and there. What you could do, however, is freeze your card the day you would be showing up and then unlock it the day after. We'll try to charge it if you don't show up, but there's no way in fudge we're going to go back and try to charge it again later. At that point, it's on to the next day's problems. Story 4. Tell your coworkers you have terrible hearing, which personally, partially true, but it's not nearly as bad as I play it up to be, and everyone feels comfortable whispering around you. I know everything. Answer. Careful with this one. One time I had a coworker who spoke with a thick accent, slurred his words together, and talked really fast. I kept saying I was having trouble hearing him. What I really meant was I couldn't understand him. Months later, he started asking me detailed questions about being hard of hearing, like if it was in one ear or both, and if it had been that way since childhood. It was awkward and not easy to backpedal out of that one. Story 5. Got this one from a friend who's a judge. If you get called for jury duty and want to get out of it, the foolproof way for both sides to throw you out is to say you have a strong respect for law enforcement, and if they brought a charge against someone, they must have done something wrong. Even if there's no evidence, you believe they don't arrest innocent people, you'll be home before lunch. Answer. I was in a jury pool for an obvious swoop squat car accident when during selection a lawyer asked, by a show of hands, how many of you in the past week read a book or are currently reading a book? I asked him to clarify what constituted a book. He said anything over a dozen pages. I asked him to clarify if a magazine or newspaper constituted a book then, as he defined it. He said yes. I scoffed a little, because wasn't that nearly everyone? I raised my hand, but only 3 others raised their hands. Another lawyer asked how many of us had seen an x-ray before. The guy sitting 2 chairs down had raised his hand to the book question, and this one also, and I joined him, along with a woman who turned out to be a nurse, but who had curiously not raised her hand during the book question. All 4 book readers and the nurse were booted. Standing in line to get our stipend, the other guy who had joined me in raising a hand both times came over and said to me, I weep for our legal system. Indeed. Story 6. For any type of web-delivered service where your physical location doesn't matter, digital downloads, event tickets, online credits, choose a zip code in a place with no sales tax. For this purpose, I've memorized 59901, which is Kalispell, Montana. Story 7. I had a conference at a hotel. During a break, I went out into the hall and dished up a full breakfast. Turns out the meal was for a completely different conference, and our conference only had coffee and muffins. So it was accidental, and I never did it again, but it would be very easy to do if you needed a meal. Answer. My kids stayed in a separate hotel room from us one night. My daughter was about 13 or so at the time and went down for breakfast by herself. While we were getting ready, she told us we had to stop and grab breakfast, since it was the absolute best breakfast she'd had at a hotel, but no bacon. She was going on about how the room was decorated nicely, everyone was so friendly, and there were a bunch of people her age. She had wandered into a bar mitzvah brunch and just sat down at a table and ate with them. Story 8. Using a second email address to repeatedly claim first-time customer discounts on websites. Not proud of it, but hey, those deals add up. Story 9. Not sure if this is unethical at all since they allow it to happen. Get the app for fast food places that have reward points. Anytime you go there or just walk by it, look for receipts laying on the ground. Scan in the receipts for reward points. Free food. I have already got over 1,600 worth of free food from one app. When Menards does their 11 off, look for rebate receipts laying around the parking lot. Last year, I got several $100s of rebates that way. Answer: we do this with our state's lottery ticket scratch-offs. You scan the losers and earn points for gift cards. People will leave their losers in baskets near the scanner. Very often, people will leave hundreds of dollars worth of scratch-offs next to the machine. We maxed out our points each month when we bought our house and got money for Lowe's, Home Depot, and Amazon. Every little bit helped. Story 10. My last company started tracking time, so I put my Bluetooth mouse on a Roomba as USBs were blocked, thus no jigglers or software. It was such a terrible place to work. Not that it matters, but I worked mainly morning and nights because my colleagues were international. I would sleep odd hours and still have to show up for the 3 days per week return to office policy. The company started tracking time, but only during 9 to 5 initially, and checking that we worked at least 40 hours, which I definitely was, but they couldn't track it correctly. Later, they expanded to be able to track across 24 hours properly, but then started tracking apps too. We were a reporting team, so we would have an insane 1 to 2 weeks at the end of the month, and then the rest of the time was quieter. My manager had a grumpy meeting about how my app data was showing that I wasn't using enough apps during the quiet weeks, which also didn't account for in-person meetings away from your laptop. So I wrote a macro to copy data back and forth in Excel, and with help from another unethical life hacker, wrote code that copied our code libraries back and forth. Sometimes I forgot to turn this off and even won a few awards for most productivity some months. This amounted to about 500 of gift cards. Answer: I worked a work-from-home job during COVID, where I would finish my assigned tasks and constantly have to ask other team members for extra work to fill my day. I started watching movies and fudge around when I had no work, but got in trouble from the manager for being away on Teams and told I should be asking for work. Well, manager, I was asking for work, but hey, okay. So I came on Reddit for solutions, and someone suggested downloading caffeine. The problem went away. Story 11. In our ever-accepting world, I have made many phone calls for utility subscriptions in my wife's name as she didn't want to make the phone call. They always insist on speaking to the account owner, and there is generally an awkward pause when I say I am the account owner named, wife's feminine name, with a clearly manly voice. Can't say a thing nowadays, rightly so. Always found it ridiculous anyway, as it could be anyone. Answer: learned this years ago BC of such a fudge-up reason. I worked with disabled people, like profoundly, but I mean, they still deserve things like cable TV and internet and Netflix. There is zero protocol for many services for disabled people. I've had to call places and pretend to be my client to fix issues or whatnot, because they don't have the ability to talk isn't an acceptable answer. Story 12. I got summoned for jury duty when my kids were in elementary school. I called them and asked if I need to bring activities for my kids or if they had a daycare. I was released. Story 13. If you hit up Golden Corral at 3:30 p.m., you pay the lunch rate, but they haul out the dinner foods at 4 p.m. Story 14. While stealing credit card information and making fraudulent purchases is illegal, nothing is really done about it. In my experience, I recently had over 1,300 of fraudulent purchases on my credit card. They were made in a state I've never been to. I contacted my credit card company and disputed the charges, then canceled the account so the person couldn't make any more purchases. I asked if they were going to try and catch the person, and they said they don't pursue justice and that they factor fraud into their losses. I had all the transactions listed in my online account, as well as digital receipts for 2 of the transactions because they used my store rewards card. The 2 receipts showed the date and time, as well as showing they went through the self-checkout. As far as I know, the majority of self-checkouts have cameras. I filed a police report. 90 of my reasoning was I didn't want this to happen to anyone else, and they said that technically the credit card company was the victim here, since they would more than likely refund the purchases. They said that they can file my report, but since the credit card company doesn't pursue justice, they're more than likely not going to do anything with the information I provide. I was raised to not lie, cheat, or steal. I am honest to a fault. But darn if that didn't make me want to start stealing credit card info. Answer: I had someone use my card to buy a 15K watch. I caught it before the watch was delivered, ordered online. I contacted the shipper and got the delivery address, called the local police, filed a report, gave them the watch info and the name address. I asked them if they were going to meet delivery guy and arrest the thief. They told me to make sure I report it to my card, which I did, and then told me they wouldn't be doing anything. So there is some guy who has a 15K watch now with no downside. Story 15. I had a car with a strange electrical problem. Wipers would turn on randomly, and then the car would die in a few minutes. One night I hit and eliminated deer. It just came out of nowhere. I reported it to the police and showed the damage to my car. They arranged to have the deer hauled off. The next day, I talked to my insurance company about the accident and told them about the strange electrical problem, probably caused by hitting the deer. They covered the cost of fixing it, including towing to a mechanic. It was towed 3 times before they fixed it. I was a poor, starving college student, I guess that's my rationale. Story 16. I got tired of Amazon delivering stuff to the wrong apartment building, which is right next door, but we are both gated. I can't just go get it. Usually, this person will bring it to me within a week or 2. I don't want to wait a week or 2. I've flipped out on Amazon and told them to look at their notes and see how many fudge times I've called about this and not waiting 3 more days to reorder. So now they send me the item immediately, and then my neighbor brings the OG item to me. So I get 2 of some things on their mistake. Not sorry either. Answer: Amazon and every delivery service is the worst. I am in a wheelchair and my apartment is in the back of a house. I never get my packages, no matter how many times I put it in the instructions. I've started saying I need to sign for things or hand them directly to me, but even that's hit or miss. They do what they want, and 90 of the time it will get stolen. I'm disabled, so I depend on these services. Most times I'll get a refund, but there have been times where I haven't. So I try to have someone here when I place a delivery. Story 17. I've never done this, but know someone who claims they did. It's hella unethical. If you have a car that is worth more on paper than it is in real life, ilk a German car with scratches, engine trouble, etc., drive it someplace remote in your city or in a parking garage. Report it stolen. If the car is not found in a fairly short period of time, 2 weeks to 30 days, the insurance company will pay out. If you have rental coverage, you won't lose out on car access. They typically do recover the vehicle eventually, but once a check is sent to you, the claim is closed and insurance will sell it. If it is recovered quickly, you can then say it was damaged and possibly get it totaled. Note: I think this is a felony, so I'm not advocating doing it. It's definitely fraud. Story 18. In my area, the building codes are super strict, and a lot of the time you won't get permission to tear down a house completely to build a new house. However, if you don't demo the entire house and instead remodel the house, then you'll get permission. So what we have done in the past is literally demo everything, except for like the fireplace and chimney, and literally build a brand new house around it. Personally, I think that it goes against the spirit of the law, but whatever, I'm not in charge of the company. Answer: so our cabin was built in the 1950s, and my mom is remodeling and expanding it. My grandfather built it for 50. It is too close to the lake for codes now, but it is grandfathered in. She can do any remodeling to the cabin as long as the front wall closest to the lake stays in place. If it doesn't, she has to move the entire cabin back to where the code dictates. But to do that, she has to dig out the hill and put in a retaining wall, plus move her garage. So she has been very careful to not mess with that wall. She has had to replace studs, rewire the entire place, insulate the entire thing, pour a whole new slab foundation, put in new trusses, jack up the front porch, and reattach it all without taking down any walls. The insulation was cardboard, old magazines, and newspapers. This is in northern Wisconsin. Story 19. I bring my own lunch to work about 99 of the time because I'd rather save my money than overspend on one lunch meal. On the rare occasion that I do eat out for lunch, I will scour the internet for local 2-for-1 deals or something that's BOGO for free, half off, etc. Once I find one, let's say it's to Chick-fil-A, I'll announce to everyone that I'm going to Chick-fil-A, and if anyone wants me to grab them anything. Inevitably, there will be at least one person that says, "Can you grab me a meal?" They give me some money, I order their meal, get mine for free or discount, go back to work and give them their change. I guess it's a little devious that I don't tell them how I'm benefiting from it, but technically they are getting free delivery of a meal they already wanted. Also, they got exactly what they paid for. Story 20. At Whole Foods, it's cheaper to fill up a soup container with food instead of soup than it is to buy the food with the normal boxes. Story 21. If your mortgage is managed by Wells Fargo and you call in for customer service, mention lawyer, media, government, or some variation. These are trigger words and will get you escalated to the highest level of service. Background. There are 5 levels of customer service. If you call in and the first thing you say is, "I want to speak to a manager," you'll get the 3rd tier. But if you said, "Hey, I see this charge on my bill. I'm not sure about it. I feel like I should talk to my lawyer about it. I might call the local TV station. I think I'm going to tell my state senator about it," you'll get escalated to a 6th level tier, internally called the president's office. At that level, they're trained to completely research your issue in a totally cover-your-jerk fashion and give you a lawyer-proof explanation. You might not like the answer, but you can be certain they've done their due diligence. Basically, their internal models have predicated that people who mention these things are likely to bring additional scrutiny to Wells Fargo's practices, and being exceptionally nice and thorough, tries to solve it before it creates pressure from outside entities. Answer: I'm not sure I'd call this even remotely unethical, because almost every interaction I have with an insurance company involves me considering going to legal media political rep, even if I'm several steps away from that escalation. And screw those bastards for deliberately giving dodgy service to everyone else. Calculate this on your bottom line, wankers. Story 22. If you WWFH invest in a mouse jiggler, no one cares in the office when you go for a 10-minute stroll for a coffee, but heaven forbid my icon goes orange. Answer: when I worked in the office, I'd get up and take long walks, chat with coworkers, etc. Didn't give a shoot because I was in the office. When I started working from home, I was terrified anytime my status changed to away. So I was in this weird panged loop of moving my mouse every 1 to 3 minutes. Mouse Jiggler was a fudge godsend. Now I have a system where once I'm done with my daily work, I turn up the volume and set up tone alerts on my phone and email. I hear something go off, get up and check it, and see if it's something I need to react to. Story 23. Work as little as possible for the maximum amount of money. Avoid letting your boss know when you've completed tasks ahead of time, as finishing quickly often leads to being assigned even more work. Focus on keeping your boss satisfied without overextending yourself. Answer: it took me way too long to learn this. I used to feel guilty about not working as hard as I could, even though I'm underpaid for my job experience. I'm retiring in October, but for the last couple of years, I've worked an average of 3 hours a day, and I've always made my number. I'm a fundraiser. If you can do your job well and fast, it's no one's business. I've given countless unpaid hours to organizations, and although I have loved what I do, I can't wait to be done with the farce that is the U.S. insane expectations of workers. Story 24. Don't work hard. Work at the pace of your coworkers. The harder you work, the more that's expected of you for the same pay. Story 25. Lower your car insurance collision comp deductibles to 0 right before a snowstorm or a road trip. After the weather trip, raise the deductible back up. You'll only be out a few dollars for the few days you had the lower deductible, and in the event of an at-fault accident, you pay nothing out of pocket. Answer: also for car insurance, you actually get charged different amounts depending on the job title that you use. There should be websites for your country that help you with this. Usually you just type in your job title, and it should tell you much cheaper alternatives. For us doctors, using 100 insurance as a base, insurance is only $75 if we just write GP instead. I've seen it go close to $40 for some specialist titles. Our nurses pay $30 less if they call themselves state-enrolled nurse, rather than just nurse. It's mad how much you can save by just writing a different title. Always make sure that my friends and family know this hack. Story 26. I have disabled things at places I have worked so that I could recover them after they were thrown away, and then fix them so I could keep them. Story 27. Another utility for multiple emails. A lot of parking meters in major cities are now, like everything else in the world, tied to an app. When I'm somewhere that has scarce parking and Pay by app is available, I create 2 separate accounts using different emails and then toggle back and forth so I never have to move my car. So far, no tickets, and I regularly stretch 1 or 2 hour parking into an all-day spot. Story 28. If you have a document due your boss, coworker, client entity, and you are not done by the due date but could get it done if you had 1 more day, find a DLL file in your computer, rename it like to budget.xls or proposal.doc or presentation.ppt, and email it with an email that says, here it is. When the recipient gets it, they won't be able to open it and will email you back there by buying you time to finish. When done, send them the right one and say, not sure what happened. Here it is again. Try this one. Answer: I did something similar a couple times in high school, but a little simpler. Instead of grabbing a DLL file, I just open the unfinished Word document in Notepad and delete a big chunk of it, then save send. The file would be corrupted and give an error when you tried to open it. I was notorious for having comically bad luck with tech in that school outside of this scheme, so I got away with this probably more than I should have. Story 29. Work makes us go for training twice a year. My teammates and I would search courses that happen in hotels, text the organizer to see whether lunch is provided. If it was, is the lunch catered in, or will we be allowed to eat at the hotel buffet? Nothing beats getting full on lobster and oysters. Story 30. I have 4 different Audible accounts. First, to get the free book for singing up for each account, but now I just constantly rotate activating and deactivating accounts. For a first 3 months, 1 credit book per month for 99 cents per month promotion. As soon as I get my 3rd credit book, I deactivate and reactivate a different account on same promotion. Sometimes they have deals where you can get 2 books for a credit too. I also, about every 3 to 4 books, will return a book, even if I read it fully and get a free credit book since they let you do that. Answer: you can do something similar with Amazon Prime without needing to create multiple accounts. I'm in Canada and haven't done it in a while, so info might be different. The hack is for ordering stuff only. You can pause your Prime membership so you don't get charged the following month, and when you are ready to make an order, simply reactivate your account, and you'll get an offer to reactivate your account for 1 week for only 99 cents. Once you have ordered what you wanted, you simply pause the membership again. So in the end, you only paid 99 cents instead of the monthly fee and saved on shipping. Story 31. Every time I'm at Chick-fil-A, I casually mention, this is the first time I've ever eaten here, and they often give me a free cookie. Story 32. I'm not sure how unethical it is, but it works great, and I've never been questioned. I travel 80 for work with about a 60-40 flight to drive ratio. About once a month, I need to host a Zoom call while on a road trip. I pull into a Marriott brand property, any will do, grab my work backpack, and smile to the desk clerk as I walk in the door. I head straight to the lobby, plug in, turn on, and host my meeting. I am self-sufficient with a hotspot, so no need for a Wi-Fi code. Once I'm done, quick bathroom run, and am back on the road. Answer: you'd be amazed at what you can get away with just by looking confident and trying. Then if you do get busted, just apologize and act confused it wasn't allowed and offer to leave immediately. They are not going to want to deal with the headache. And if you're nice about it, they're likely not going to care. They're just trying to get through the day, same as you. Story 33. I have 30 email addresses that I've been using throughout high school, college, and present day for free trials. Just counted, exactly 30. I'm 32. Story 34. Buy the cheapest tickets you can to a sporting event and then walk to whatever seats are open. Go another level and use the ticketing app to find better seats once inside. Story 35. I have used those fake email address generators to sign up for a free temporary subscription a time or two. Of course, since a lot of these now require credit cards to get the free trial, this doesn't work that well. Story 36. When I was at Purdue, it was often freezing, and when the bars closed, you had to walk home or get a cab with a surging rate. I'd stop into Mad Mushroom and order a pizza to be delivered to my house and ask if I could ride with the delivery guy to my place. It often worked. Story 37. Sometimes I might need 4 specific bolts, but on Amazon you need to buy a box of 100. I will buy the box, take out 4, and return the box for only having 96. Story 38. You can beat any speeding ticket in California very easily. Just plead not guilty by written declaration, and then just bury the cop in paperwork and drag out the deadlines as long as possible. Sooner or later, the cop will have better things to do and hell miss a deadline to submit something, and then your case will get automatically dismissed. I have a friend who's gotten over 20 tickets over the years and has never paid even one of them because of this tactic. I assume this would work in any state where they allow you to fight your ticket by mail. Answer: in NY, never ever plead guilty to a speeding ticket. Show up to court and plead not guilty. As long as the ticket wasn't excessive or you have other shoot going on with your record, they will always offer you a deal to plead guilty to a local charge like violating a noise ordinance. That way, the money goes to the local municipality instead of the state. Story 39. Dressing in a suit and having hands full of books, boxes, or carrying a clipboard will get you into most places. Story 40. Don't know if this is the case elsewhere, but in France, we weigh fruit and veg on scales that print a sticker you put on the paper bag. I put my veggies on the scale, then lift the bag a bit to shave off weight and pay less. Cashiers never ever check. Story 41. Hulu, Disney Plus, and other streaming services often have discounts for new members. Hulu specifically does $1.99 a month for the whole year over Black Friday each year. Sign up for 2 email accounts and you can get the $1.99 price monthly for several years in a row. I've had it for at least 5 years. Story 42. Depending on the job, sometimes being the snack person at an office job can get you breaks favors. Anyone hungry for goldfish? I brought soft, chewy chocolate chip cookies if anyone wants some. Meat sticks? They're from the local butcher. Anyone want some cheese strings? I made some popcorn if anyone wants a handful. Answer: I used to go to the pound shop, UK Dollar Tree, and buy a whole bunch of snacks like 15, 20 worth and lay them out on a table in our office for holidays. Management were stingy, and the moral boost it gave was honestly worth it. The rest of the office was pissed when I left, had the choice of do the job negatively impacting my already atrocious mental health or quit. Story 43. Wear a skirt in translucent tights to write exams. You can write cheat notes on your legs, cross your leg, and subtly pull the tights a bit when you need to see your notes. Most teachers and proctors will not be comfortable asking to examine your leg closer or ask you to take your tights off to check, and if they do, you can say they're creepy and threaten to complain about their conduct. Story 44. Get rid of mailing solicitations by stuffing heavy crap in their business reply letter. They have agreed to pay the postage, so if it gets delivered postage due. Story 45. Ring up organic produce as not organic at the self-checkout at the grocery store. It's usually cheaper. Story 46. Big queue to go left at the 2-lane roundabout. Drive up the right lane. Indicate right and go all the way around to the left exit. The loop-de-loop. It's not illegal. Many will dislike you. Story 47. I have never paid a medical bill in my adult life, and my credit is 750-ish. I throw them directly in the trash and laugh about it. For years. Story 48. In Aldi, to stop the cashier pitching items at you like a MLB pitcher, strategically pick off some bits of barcodes at intervals along the conveyor to create pause moments. Story 49. Flying to a different country for some medical procedures is cheaper than getting them done in the States, even if you include a 2-way flight and 2-week holiday. Story 50. This was my FIL's unethical life hack. If you need to mail a letter but don't have a stamp, address the letter to yourself and the recipient as the sender, then drop it in the mailbox without a stamp. It will eventually be returned to sender for missing postage. Sounds like mail fraud to me. I've not done it because the 60 or so cents a stamp runs isn't worth that trouble, but he's from the 30s and had the post-depression save every penny mentality. Story 51. We fly often with our baby. 6 separate weddings and funerals in just her 8 months of life. Every time someone asks if it's her first flight, we just say yes. It makes people so happy being a part of such a big milestone. Everyone is so nice and forgiving, and the flight attendants sometimes give us free drinks. We were honestly tired of bumming people out when we were honest, Lowell. Seems to make people happy and buy us some free time and free drinks. Story 52. One time I got paired with 3 randoms for a round of golf. I told them my vision was going bad, and the entire round I had 3 extra sets of eyes on all of my shots. Story 53. Instead of paying for movies or TV shows, just get a VPN and torrent everything. You already have to pay for the internet, and a good VPN is about $100 for a year. Story 54. Not super unethical, but you can keep the starter price most internet providers give you for the first 12 years, or they might even drop the price if you call saying you want to cancel your service. Usually within 1 week of your scheduled shutoff, retention will call you with a new promotional offer. There are no promotions. All the prices are negotiable. Story 55. In your job, prioritize by focusing on tasks that have the most significant impact, rather than spreading your efforts too thin. This approach allows you to stand out while also helping to minimize the effort you need to put into your tasks. Story 56. This is not unethical at all, but I'm surprised by how many of my friends and family have just one email address. You should have at least 2. One for legitimate emails, friends, contractors, etc., and one for signing up for discounts online. You know when you look at a new website and they give you a discount for signing up? Chuck in that second email, get your discount, and never look at their emails again. Story 57. My neighbor does this, and I pray stores will crack down on it eventually. She buys her fully lighted Christmas tree early December, then returns it within 30 days just after Christmas ends for a full refund. She buys another one and does the same trick every year. Home Depot Christmas tree storage service. Her husband also buys a ridiculous big screen TV from Costco to watch the Super Bowl in the backyard. He then returns it the following week for a full refund. I dislike Costco. Story 58. Most unethical? I don't know about that. I'm fairly ethical. But in college, if my paper was just shy of being long enough, I would make all the periods a bigger font and do 2 spaces after each one. It made a decent difference in the length. Story 59. I have a friend that used to go find what she wanted in a store like Target or Walmart before the holidays and hide them behind merchandise in a different department that wasn't very popular in the winter. Then after the holidays, when the sales were on, she would go retrieve them and get it for the discounted price, while otherwise the store would be out of those items. You can do this, of course, for any pre-post holiday sales. Story 60. Okay, here we go. There is something called PCI compliance. It deals with debit credit card transactions. The Verifone 92595 PIN pad is no longer PCI compliant, and places are phasing them out for the Verifone M400. If you shop somewhere that is using a Verifone 91525 PIN pad, you can complete the transaction, then call your bank and dispute the charges, because the store was not PCI compliant due to the PIN pad being out of date, and the charges will be refunded to you at the store's expense, and you will keep what you paid for. Several years ago, when the Verifone 915925 PIN pad was being phased in, a grocery store called Fiesta had not upgraded to the new 915 PIN pads. There were a bunch of people who bought a crap ton of groceries from Fiesta and then disputed the charges with their banks and instantly won. Fiesta lost tens of thousands of dollars in one weekend through this and upgraded their PIN pads that week. Story 61. I buy gray market B12 and weight loss meds. As a former biochemist, I feel safe and save a shoot ton of money. Don't recommend it for people who can't calculate diluting, titrating medications. ETA, Peptide Sciences website linked below. Story 62. Convenience store employees don't get paid enough to care if you put 2 shots of espresso in a single cup. Story 63. I once returned something to Amazon using a box from another thing I bought from Amazon, and they refunded me for both items. I told CS and contacted the company, but they said it was okay. Felt bad though. Story 64. When I was a poor college student going to the movies, I'd go to a theater that was just finishing and grab a large popcorn bucket from the top of the garage, a la George Costanza, dump out the popcorn and take it to the concession for a free refill. Story 65. When I go through the self-scanners at supermarkets, I put the premium fruit at the bottom of the bag and then 1 or 2 of the cheaper ones on top. That way I can scan it through as the cheaper ones. And if I get a random check, it never gets noticed. Story 66. Sometimes I stuff the little red Baby Bell cheeses in my produce sack with tomatoes when I do self-checkout. Story 67. Told a car salesman that God sent me a sign that I shouldn't pay more than $30,000 for this car. The bill came to $29,500, well under the quote he originally gave me, I'm an atheist. Story 68. When you're having a conversation but are afraid of eye contact, look at the center of their eyebrows. You won't feel like you're staring into the other one's eyes, but they'll sense great attention from you. Story 69. Someone pissed you off in a parking, find a small rice grain-sized pebble, then unscrew the person's tire air valve cap and insert the pebble inside the cap. Screw the cap back in enough for the pebble to press down the valve stem and release all the air from the tire slowly and inconspicuously while causing 0 damage. I'm a petty meanie. Story 70. I once outsourced my job to a guy in a developing country. I had a contract to create some software for a company, but didn't have time to do it. So I hired another person to do the work, but only paid them about 20 of what I was being paid. Essentially, I got 80 of the money for almost none of the work. Story 71. Tearing the tags off of uncommon name brand clothes at Ross, so they'll ring it up as general merchandise. Story 72. I remember an episode of Roseanne where they were tight on money. So she sent the check for the electric bill to the phone company and then forgot to sign the check to the electric bill or whatever. This stayed with me for decades despite all of my bills being auto-pay. Story 73. If you're traveling in a city and want to walk around but have nowhere to stash your bags, find a nice hotel, like Four Seasons, and confidently walk up to the concierge. Tell them you just checked out and need them to check your bags for a few hours, tip them a couple bucks and boom. Almost free bag storage for the day. Story 74. They eventually caught on, but during COVID, I was gifted a Kindle and got very into reading. I would purchase a book from Amazon, download it to my Kindle, and then read it so quickly that I could return it to Amazon within 24 to 48 hours for a full refund. I probably read 100 books for free over the course of about a year and a half. Story 75. Sign up for rewards at every restaurant in town and claim a different birthday for each one. You'll get free stuff year-round. Story 76. You can do any illegal thing you want to become president because you're apparently immune from anything once elected. Story 77. My friend abuses store return policies in various ways. For example, PlayStation controller loses functionality, buy new controller, swap shells and return old one in new shell as defective. Buy iPhone SE, get free Apple and Apple Music for 90 days, return iPhone. This one took nuts. Buy new Toshiba TV, box up TV from 4 years ago and return a new box. The idea worked, etc. Story 78. I eat breakfast at work, at the desk. I get credit for coming in earlier and starting work earlier. Story 79. If you have a Gmail address, you can add dots wherever you want to. So JOHANNA Gmail will be the same as Johanna and Johanna, which gives you a whole lot of email addresses without having to manage different accounts. Story 80. This is pretty tame, but if your local supermarket has a self-serve coffee machine, in the UK we have lots of Costa ones, just get a coffee and don't take the ticket. No one's checking if you're scanning the ticket at the self-checkout, and the coffee cup won't set off the alarm. Story 81. Drive in the carpool lane when traffic gets bad. I pretend I'm helping by unclogging traffic and keeping things moving. Story 82. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying while it sounds bad out loud. Sometimes one has to cheat the system some to gain a bit of leverage. And no, this isn't related to relationships, so pump the brakes on that judgment. Story 83. If you want to make a good impression at work for promotional opportunities, volunteer for, and work hard on high-visibility tasks, let someone else do the shoot nobody notices. If you plan to sell your car in the next 6 or 7 months, there is no reason to continue getting regular oil changes. If you're really bad about it and accidentally put 30,000 or 40,000 on it, just get one before you take it to the dealership. Story 84. If you need to save money, don't go out and buy those expensive movies and music albums. Just torrent them and use that money on things you need, not want. Story 85. When you go to a new place or restaurant, bring a happy birthday balloon. Usually they're going to give you something for free. Story 86. Pick the best produce at the store by watching others who seem like they know how to pick the best produce. If they sniff it, you know they are pro. Then when they aren't looking, make your own selections from their cart. Story 87. Something broke after warranty ran out. Buy the item again. Wait a few months and do a warranty claim on old item with new proof of purchase. Sell the new you-opened item when it gets replaced, or keep as spare if you suspect it might break again. Rinse and repeat. Story 88. When approached by people asking for money for a charity, whether in your doorstep or in the street, confidently say, "I already donate to this charity. Such a worthy cause, they thank you," and leave no further questions asked. Easiest way I have found to get them to take no for an answer. Story 89. Pretending to be General Yakuba Gowon of Nigeria and cold calling vulnerable people in order to obtain their bank details in return for promises that I would secure for them an affidavit for $350 worth of licorice and first dibs on an exclusive Games Workshop Samwise Gamgee miniature. Story 90. A lot of hotels have breakfast and they don't ask for room numbers or names, as long as you just walk in and don't look lost. Story 91. A little hack I use when I realize someone is trying to manipulate me is to not let them know I've caught on. Instead of confronting them directly, I play along, letting them believe they have control while subtly turning the situation in my favor without them noticing. I don't do it out of malice. It's just a way of giving them a taste of their own medicine. For example, if a coworker tries to guilt trip me into taking on extra work instead of rejecting it outright, I agree with apparent willingness. But then I subtly steer the situation so that they end up taking on more responsibility than they originally intended to shift onto me. This way, without direct confrontation, their manipulation backfires without them even realizing it. Story 92. When you go to the movie theater and you want to get 2 smaller bags of popcorn just because it's easier than dealing with 1 bucket, get the big bucket, but ask them for one of the trays that the nachos come in. Then you can split the popcorn between the bucket and the tray, and you basically just got 2 bags for the 1 bag price. Answer. When I worked at a movie theater years ago, the nacho trays were part of our counted inventory, so we couldn't give them out without a nacho purchase. People would ask for the cardboard drink carriers for this, or we also had small plain paper bags we could give them. Just don't be a male body part and hold up the line when you're doing it. A lot of times people did this to avoid having to come back for a refill, so they dump out their popcorn onto the tray while still standing at the register and then immediately ask for a refill. They were usually the same people who were never satisfied with the amount of butter you added and would make you walk back multiple times to add more. So you'd end up helping the same person for 5 to 10 minutes with an ever-growing line of frustrated people behind them. Story 93. When you buy a movie ticket, load up Fandango and select the seats near you. It will reserve them for 15 minutes, blocking others from sitting near you. Depending on how early you get to the movies, you only have to do this a few times and no one will end up near you. I usually buy our seats, then reserve everything around me till the opening credits. Works every time. Story 94. Used to work for a place that had company cars that we could use instead of your own. They each had a fuel card for topping up the tank when required, and you just filed the receipt away. Whenever you'd drive the company car that had the same fuel type as my car, I'd take a jerry can with me, fill up both car and can, return the company car and take the can home for my vehicle. The receipt doesn't specify between car and can, at least where I'm from. It just says I bought X amount of fuel. Story 95. Guy I know traveled a lot for work and often starred in hotels near the airport. He kept a bunch of hotel key cards on him. If he didn't like the breakfast, gym, pool, etc., at the place he was staying, he would walk across the street and use the place next door. Story 96. I create an account on virtually any website that sells something, usually makeup, clothes, electronics, add a bunch of stuff to my cart, and then leave the website, usually the same day, but sometimes a few days later, if they really want to make the sale. They'll send text emails offering coupons or discounts. I've learned that if you wait a few days ignoring their email stacks, they'll send you decently big coupon. Story 97. Fake an Australian accent. I have lived in the US for 16 years, but still have an Australian accent, but I ramp it up to 100 when needed. It's helped me get out of so many things. Medical debt. I'm so confused by the US healthcare system. Please help little old me. Phone contracts, speeding tickets, the works. Whenever needing to sound completely open and honest while lying my head off, just white lies, the accent comes out. While I do bump into racists, a lot of Americans default to assuming Australians are completely trustworthy, but also babes in the wood that need hand-holding and helping. Story 98. You guys understand that for justice to work and innocent people not to go to jail, it's really important for clever people with functioning brains not to skip out on jury duty, right? It could be your jerk in that seat one day, and you won't want 12 low-info voters deciding your fate. Story 99. This isn't the most, but if the flavor I want is full price and another flavor is on sale, I scan the discounted flavor and pack the flavor I want. Story 100. At least in Minnesota where I live, if you get arrested, act like you're more high and eat your bag of dope. They won't take you to jail. They will drop you at the hospital and you can leave the next morning. Story 101. I keep a spreadsheet with clients' kids' names, dogs' names, favorite sports teams, etc. I also track what the last couple of things we talked about are. Then I organically bring things up like, hey, how was Jordan's play? I actually make a note on my internal written agenda that says, ask about Jordan's play. I have dozens of client calls a week, and y'all are fudge boring, so I have to write the shoot down. Story at 102. My shower door is really squeaky and makes a high-pitched screech when I try to close it. So when I close it, I scream at the top of my lungs to cancel it out. Story 103. Gas station roller items. They give you those little paper sleeves to put the roller items in. They usually sell 2 for X. You can put up to 4 items in the sleeve and only pay for 2 items. Just say you have 2 items and typically the cashier will ring you up with no hassle because they have other stuff to do. Or better yet, they'll have a self-checkout. Story 104. Be kind and friendly to people, and they're very likely to do kind, friendly things for you. This often gets you what you want. Crazy, huh? Story 105. Not really something I would normally do. But once upon a time, I worked at an electronics store. The stores generally did sell video game things, but our store didn't really ever sell them much, and we didn't get much stock of them, ever, and rarely sold what we had. This was back in the Xbox 360 era, so there were cards for Xbox Live and points to purchase things with. So one day, I just swiped a year-long sub card, and the largest point card we carried and activated them, and just pocketed the receipt for that at the end of the day. I figured since we were most likely never going to sell them anyways, I was really only stealing from Microsoft. Didn't get caught, and I think we eventually shipped back whatever unsold material we had, probably because Microsoft was phasing out the cards. Story 106. I have a don't ask, don't tell policy for any items under my grocery shopping cart. If the cashier doesn't ask to scan, I don't point out I have items there. You'll put things like toilet paper, paper towels, and cases of water under the cart. I walk out with about 60 worth of goods month. Answer, I used to grab a bag of firewood from outside the grocery store and put it under my cart on my way into the store, making it look as though I planned to pay for it. Then go through self-checkout and just don't scan it. After forgetting to scan probably 10 bundles of firewood, I noticed the grocery store started making the self-checkout workers manually go scan firewood bundles if they saw them in the cart. Story 107. I've had people tell me some pretty darn things about themselves, all because I've been friendly to them. If you need dirt on someone, be a friend who doesn't judge. Story 108. On Amazon, if you want UPS to pick up your item, you have to typically pay $7 for it. However, if you click Pick Up Request, pay it, then wait an hour and cancel, the driver still gets it in his system and will pick it up for free. I discovered this by accident when I said I would just drive to the UPS store to drop my package off, but they picked it up the next business day even after I canceled it. Story 109. Teenage me at a gas station mini-mart would fill a jumbo soda cup with soft-serve ice cream. 44 o's of ice cream for 99 cents. Sorry, AM, PM. Story 110. It's difficult for us to get building permits, so we only demolish buildings up to the base, not completely. Then it doesn't count as a new building, and I don't have to submit a building permit, just a change. This allows you to avoid the building permit. Story 111. When you need to submit a document and you know you will be late, save it, open the PDF or docs with Notepad, delete some random metadata, and submit it that way. The file will show as corrupt. When your professor or business partner gets back to you saying, "Sorry, I can't open it. Can you resend it?" you will be happy to oblige and help them out. I used it frequently during university times. Story 112. In our country, you can get out of children's school obligation at most schools by simply calling or texting or emailing in sick and telling them you will share when they are better, so you don't have to contact every day. As long as your child is scoring well, there will be issues if you do. We are too busy to check. There is absolutely no use in asking special permission for a holiday outside of the season, and they will only give you 2 weeks max a school year. Just make sure to fly from another country, like Belgium or Germany, in case you need to fly around the days the schools will get holidays, and you can enjoy a long family vacation out of season with your kids. Some schools are flexible, nice, and honest, and grant you your wish to travel outside of the season. Most schools are petty about it and will absolutely not. Instruct your kid well, and if they do start talking, just say this is something they saw online, and they have a very large imagination. These tips can save you thousands of euros. Just don't hurt your kid. If they are not scoring well at school, and you are not willing to teach them yourself, please don't hurt their future because of selfish reasons. Ik ben Nederlands im Dutch. Story 113. As long as you have a good credit score, you can say you're self-employed and fabricate an illustrious bank statement as well as high-ticket paychecks for yourself and submit them to a rental agency or property management company if you want to live somewhere, but don't make 2 to 3x the rent per month. Story 114. In my previous job, when working from home, he'd always schedule an hour-long meeting from 9 a.m. in my calendar for those days. Then I would join my own meeting and go back to bed for an hour. Every day, unless I had an actual meeting. Everybody just assumed that I was in a meeting, as that's what my status said. Story 115. If I'm not wanting to talk to someone on the phone, tell them I'm at 2 power so I can just shut it off. Story 116. I get free hot water from cafes, restaurants, and gas stations. Then I choose from the selection of tea that I can carry in my car, wallet, and backpack. Best tea ever. Story 117. It's unlikely an entity is going to sue you for a debt that's under a couple of $100s. If your money is tight, prioritize. Story 118. I've been called for and selected to be a juror 3 times now in my life. My strategy has never failed. Express your admiration for one attorney, especially in comparison for the other. Bonus points of the case seem straightforward or unbalanced. After selection, latter attorney will enact their power of jury selection to remove you. As with everything in the U.S. system, ultimate power will be wielded by those who can protect themselves. Story 119. At the self-checkout counter of any grocery store. Buying organic vegetables and choosing non-organic every darn time on that checkout screen. Story 120. I was called for a capital takedown case. I honestly told the judge that I couldn't vote to sentence someone to passing. I was slightly familiar with the case, as it was a very high-profile case locally. A dude shot and eliminated a cop and his pregnant girlfriend. The cops beat the shoot out of him when they arrested him. There was not much doubt that the guy was guilty, but I couldn't decide to eliminate someone else, even a bad fudge dude like him. Story 121. Locking my sister in the kitchen and threatening to hang her dolls by the neck from father's runner bean frame in an execution ritual if she didn't wash the dishes when it should have been my turn. I can still see her tear-stained eyes looking mournfully through the window onto the back garden. Her sobbing, plaintive cries still ring in my ears. Time goes by so quickly, and it's hard to believe that was almost a week ago. Story 122. We buy ceiling fans from a place that offers a 1-year warranty, no questions asked. Due to the workload, fan is fitted in an enclosed duct, which is not recommended, and in a humid environment, they burn out in less than half that time. Every time this happened, we returned the receipt and the worn-out fan and got a brand new one on warranty. I think we're on to our 7th fan for the price of one by now. We kept all the outlet caps. Story 123. I had my license plate stolen, and someone stole fuel from the petrol station with them. Of course, I filed to the police. Also, I made duplicates of my plates with the same numbers. It's cheaper than a new one. Sometime later, they contacted me that fuel was stolen with my license plates. I showed that I already filed a case of theft and was free to go. But what if I put my newelled plates on my brother's car, stole fuel, and played dumb because I already have papers that someone steals petrol? Story 124. If you're on vacation in a place you know you won't ever be in again, don't tip at restaurants. You save money. Story 125. My bosses don't know how good I'm at with coding, scripting, and using AI. So they give me tasks that take hours, sometimes days or weeks to do manually. Password resets, creating accounts, building websites, admin and networking things. So oftentimes a project that should take about a week, I finish in about one day, if not a few hours. Story 126. If you want to figure out which companies are sending you spam, Google lets you tinker with your email to help determine who sold your email. Story 127. 30 years ago, school IDs were kind of poorly made. When I got to university, I was still only 17, 18 drinking age. I made a fake school ID that would allow me to get a legit university bar ID, which then allowed me to get into quite a few bars around town just with the student ID. Story 128. I'm very bad at remembering faces, so I told everyone I'm face blind. That way they tell me who they are, and I don't have to guess or ask. Story 129. I like these fruit punch energy drinks, but they don't taste good unless they're poured over a glass of ice. Luckily, my local Starbucks will give me a free large cup of fresh ice, which I do every day. Story 130. Buy movie tickets to a cheap movie, old children's movie perhaps, and then walk into the expensive one you want to see, 3-hour IMAX. Just check beforehand so the movie isn't sold out and see what seats aren't booked. Story 131. Maybe not a hack. Enjoy the things you know you're privileged to have and splurge on them. If you work hard, enjoy the spoils guilt-free. Story 132. I buy weight loss meds and peptides from China and prescription skincare, antibiotics, antivirals, and boner pills from India, and avoid giving U.S. Pharma any money as much as I possibly can. I've lost 30 oral Bs on Tirzepatwan and semaglutide from China. Story 133. If you want to go into healthcare, especially acute care or emergency, but you are afraid you won't be able to handle the graphic injuries, start going to gore subreddits and look at the content. You will slowly desensitize yourself. Story 134. You can buy gray market Windows keys for about $25-30, and they work fine. If you buy a Win 11 key from Microsoft, it's like $140. Just make sure if you buy one, you use it fairly quickly. I bought one a couple years ago, and I guess that one got resold to someone else since I didn't use it for a long time. Story 135. If you're going to take down someone, do it with weapon-shaped ice, knife, pick, hammer, etc. The takedown weapon will literally disappear when it melts. Story 136. I use a junk account for all emails that aren't from people I know. I snag junk account, Charlie Abroad, and it's so easy to filter out bullshit. Story 137. If you get to know local law enforcement and not in a negative way, there are a lot of benign benefits, including avoiding jury duty. Story 138. I've kept my room key so I can pool crash the MGM on other trips to Vegas. They don't scan your room key. The attendant just needs to see it. Story 139. Had new phone in back pocket. Sat down without thinking. Cracked screen. Next day, received call from provider asking if I was sure I didn't want protection plan. I had declined. I told him he was a good salesman and accepted. Returned phone for new one 2 weeks later. Canceled protection plan. Story 140. I once got a parking ticket, and instead of paying it, I dipped it in water, crumpled it up, and had my GF bring it to the police station a week later, saying she found it on the street. I went online to see if the citation was still there, and it was gone. Answer: my dad got a parking ticket in my car from the venue of some concert here in Perth years ago. Pretty sure it was a Pink concert. He didn't even park. He pulled up on a clear bit of verge at the edge of the car park. My sister and her friend got out, and he drove off. In the 60 or so seconds that whole operation took, somebody working there managed to record the make, model, and registration. I got a $180 fine in the mail from some agency I'd never heard of before. After calling them out to ask how the hell they got my address, They quoted all of my sister's details from the concert ticket. Whoever saw my dad drive off, denying him the chance to leave the ticket on the car, decided to follow the girls to the ticket checking area and got her details from there. My sister didn't remember telling her name to anybody, so surely they had to have been nearby so they could go to be like, hey, what was that girl's address? Creepy as fudge. I was understandably pretty mad. I made some comment about going to the media. I don't know if they actually cared, but they gave up pretty quickly on making us pay for the ticket. Story 141. That joke Dave Chappelle had about riding in the car with a white guy and the guy saying, I'm sorry, I didn't know I wasn't allowed to do that. I've done that in tons of places. I've wandered into restricted areas in zoos and in theme parks, got caught and was like, whoopsie, we were looking for the bathroom and we got lost. Most of the time, they'll adult worker you back to the main park area, but sometimes you'll meet someone cool and you get a behind-the-scenes tour. So long as you know how to chat someone up, make some small talk, don't come off as a creep or like you deserve to be back there. Most of the time, the low-level employee will take you the long way back to the park and you get to see some cool stuff. Heck, one time in a zoo, I got to feed some giraffes because me and a buddy got caught wandering and this lady was frantic. I asked her what was wrong and she said she's behind schedule getting food to the animals. So we offered to help since we both had restaurant experience dicing vegetables. 20 minutes later, we have like 10 bowls of food ready and she let us feed some giraffes carrots and stuff. Edit to add, if you do this at a zoo, do not try to get into the enclosures. Weigh the risk versus the reward. Gonna go to jail? Prob's not worth it. Gonna get put on a list that goes out to all the airports? Def's not worth it. Gonna get to feed some cool animals? We'll see. Story 142. I don't know if this counts, but I have an obnoxious coworker that never stops talking. So I started sticking my hands in the hand dryers every time he spoke to me, situated in our workplace for hygiene reasons, so I couldn't hear him, and now he's just doesn't bother trying anymore. Story 143. I got a parking ticket my first or second semester at a junior college. Can't remember anymore. The ticket came in a little unmarked and unsealed envelope. Instead of getting a permit, I put that envelope back under my windshield wiper every morning, so they thought they had already given me a ticket. I did that for 2 or 3 semesters before eventually transferring, so paid $130 ticket for over a year of school parking. Story 144. Use the self-pay kiosk at the movies. Instead of the regular adult, I choose the senior. I would do the child, but usually watching something R-rated. The 15-year-old ripping your ticket at the cinema rarely would check. If they do, you just play dumb and push the wrong button. Saves a few bucks. Answer. I used to work in a movie theater when I worked box office and I liked someone or they were military, etc. I only charged them senior child rate. No one there legitimately cares. 12-year-old wants to go see a shoot R-rated movie? Fine with me. Just show me any ID and don't make me come in there to kick you out. A kid showed me a Pokemon card. I let Charizard into an R-rated movie. Story 145. Lied on my resume to get my first job in IT, then crammed watching videos of the technologies the job description wanted and got the job after lying in the interview. Story 146. I used to scam free extra dipping sauces from McD's. This is how. You go through the drive-thru when it is busy, order your McNuggets, pay for them at the first window, then when you get up to the pickup window, act like you forgot to buy extra sauces and ask if you can buy them right then and there while holding out a credit card. Do not hold out cash because the attendant might just pocket it. Odds are they will just give them to you for free since what you just did was throw a big monkey wrench into the finely run machine that is the drive-through ordering pickup process. My local McD's suddenly got really stingy with condiments, only giving you the minimum and posting signs saying extra condiments would cost extra. They've since changed and are no longer stingy, so I don't need to use this method anymore. Edit. I once tried the same thing at a Pizza Hut drive-thru, got a free soda. Answer. I think it's fudge ridiculous that McD's tries to limit condiments in the first place. It should be like Taco Bell. Here's the sauces, grab a handful. I just paid you 5 for 10 pieces of breaded chicken byproducts, and you won't allow me to have a few 5-cent packets of glucose syrup and spices? We're not exactly ordering filet mignon here. Profit margins aren't going to collapse because I took 4 sweet and sour packets for my McNuggets. Story 147. This might be a bit outdated now because it's so easy to order everything online, but if a local store doesn't carry the product you want them to, just call them and ask them if they have it, and have a few friends call and do the same. Also ask if they have it every time you go in, and have a friend or two to do the same. Eventually they will think that everyone is asking about product X so they should start keeping it in stock. When I was younger, me and some friends got a local sporting goods store to carry disc golf discs by doing this. Answer: in college, I would grocery shop at a large Target nearby, and one time they ran out of taco shells, and they didn't restock them for weeks. Eventually, I got so fed up, I did one of those surveys on the receipt and complained that they were out of taco shells. Surprise, surprise, they were back in stock by the next week. My grandmother also bought so many cups at Goodwill, she drove the price up. Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. If you'd like to see more content like this, you might be interested to know that I've created another channel with a similar theme, especially for those of you who enjoy what I do. I'll leave a link in the description, and I hope to see you there. Take care.